And there's a few people asking about Blues in the Night. There's lots of lovely praise in the Q&As for the show.
Oh,
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the process that show took in order to get to production at the Kiln.
mm-hmm.
How did you find the piece, and what was the journey like to get that to stage?
Yeah, sure. It's a very personal journey, actually. And it does begin with me being given the tape when I was in my 20s, so maybe early 30s, no, 20s. And I couldn't afford to see it in the West End. And in fact, I think I was on tour, I was away working. I worked a lot regionally as an actor for many years before I went into the West End. And so I used to play it in my car, and it was one of those shows that I just fell in love with the music. And I imagined, through all those fantastic performances, who they were, what they looked like, who thought what of what. And I just had this whole, I've made up this story. So just cut forward then, years later, I was talking to my partner, my now wife Sharon, about what I could do, what we could do at Hackney Empire. I was beginning to start thinking about work for there, and I was thinking, what could we do? And I knew Sharon had done the show, and I knew I loved it, and I'd said to Sharon, what do you think about doing it again? And she'd done it quite a few times. She'd done it a couple of times before, and I thought, oh gosh, she's not going to want to do it again. But when we talked about it, and I think this is a bit about what I'm saying about it being artist-led sometimes, choices, it was also the idea of Sharon and Clive together on stage. This was a perfect show for something like that, Clive Rowe. And they have a great banter. They have a great friendship and a relationship that's happened over the years. So it's something that it's a chemistry that I knew that would bring something to this show. Also, Sharon was that little bit older, and therefore said to me, I want to do the lady again. I want to do this role again because I now feel old enough to sing Wasted Life Blues. I think I've lived enough to bring more to something like Wasted Life Blues. And so I'd got her on board, I got Clive on board, and then we started thinking about the other actors, and we brought actors on board, and we did what was a really bad showcase, a few performances, with hardly any rehearsal, but with great singers bringing what they had to the show. The one thing I knew, even with like very little money to get this as a little showcase, I wanted to do it on the main house, and I decided I didn't want a lot of set in order to do that because we couldn't afford anything. And I wanted the actors to, for the showcase, I wanted the songs and the performers to be all the most important thing, and the band, of course. So, and I did a lot of the pre-work while I was rehearsing that showcase with that members of the cast and that creative team. I did a lot of the work with Frank Thompson, and I did a lot of the work on what narrative we wanted to bring to it, and how we wanted to connect the characters, and how we would move from one thing to another. A lot of that was thought about. The addition of the two dancers was actually Frank's idea, and I jumped at because it realized that I could make certain moments quite show busy when it was in sort of Sharon's head about the old days. Also, I could use them as the glue in which to fit these four characters together. Then moving from that showcase, then getting the opportunity to do it at Kiln was really a conversation with Indu, and Indu suggested it, and we jumped at it because for Sharon and I, it had been unfinished history, really. We hadn't quite got it to where I had it in my head. So to be able to do it with Kiln, with the creative team that we had, which was, and the support that we had from Kiln, and to visualize it with that fantastic set by Robert Jones, and those costumes by Lottie Collett, and bringing Neil Austin and Augustus back, and bringing it to the theatre and sitting it in that space. I always wanted it to be that intimate space, so that it really touches the audience. The audience feel like they're sitting in that hotel, or they might be part of the Clive's audience in the hotel lobby. And I think that also the idea of being able to watch someone like Sharon or Debbie or Gemma do some of those torch songs so close up, the way that should move you. So it was the ultimate dream come true, if I'm honest, because it was over a period of time, it was over a period of years that little process I talked about happened. So yeah, it was, you know, a dream come true.